You know, it's a good problem to have when you have so many people crowding around your car that you have to take appointments for people like me to do interviews. But this DB11 is one of the stars of this Geneva Auto Show because, well, just look at it. It's absolutely stunning. It has a 600 horsepower V12 and it'll go from 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. And coming up right now in the fast lane car, everything you ever want to know. Well, almost everything. A lot of it isn't out yet.
Well, DB's got a great lineage, hasn't it? So
The 5
it's
over
been
there.
around, the 5 as an icon. The DB in the Aston Martin range is like the backbone of the sports car range. So DB is very special, and it's where our cars start from and where they go to. So for us to renew DB is a logical step forward. The DB9's been in the marketplace quite a long time now, so the challenge for us was to reimagine and re-engineer a new DB, but worthy of being an Aston Martin GT.
Now, you've done a lot with the car, right? There's a lot of...
It's new.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
the fundamental thing,
completely- yeah.
this is a brand new car, top to bottom. So the challenge really was starting with a clean sheet of paper or a clean CAD terminal and say, well, okay, you've got no constraints. You know, you can create the car that you want to have. So between myself and Marek Reitman, our Chief Creative Officer, we sat down and said, okay, well, we know we want to create a new icon. How do we do that? So we start with the driver. It's the most important part of any Aston Martin. Really start to build the car around there. The proportion, the layout, the wheelbase, the overhangs, the height of the car. And my job as head of the technical side of the business is to make sure that I let Marek create his beautiful design, but he needs to have the performance credentials and all the safety credentials. So it's a challenge. We challenge ourselves every day, and hopefully the result is a little bit of magic.
If you're a fan of James Bond movies, then you will certainly know what this car is. It's the Aston Martin DB5. It's the car that put James Bond on the map, or did James Bond put the car on the map? Either way, this is the car that has become synonymous with 007.
Well, we've had a history of some fantastic designers
some
in
really
the
great,
business.
yeah.
So, you know, Ian Callum was involved in the Vanquish, the original Vanquish, and the DB7 car line, and Henrik has been involved before. But, you know, for the last 10 years, Marek has been the maestro of design, and I think this exemplifies the fantastic work that this design team at Aston Martin can create. You know, we previewed a few cars over the last decade or so, the 177, the Vulcan Hyper track car that we do, but really this is going back to the heart of what the Aston Martin range is.
Now let's talk about the numbers. So let's talk about horsepower and torque and what size engine.
So it's a V12 Aston Martin engine. That's the most important thing. Conceived and engineered in the UK. But a V12 like you've never seen in an Aston Martin before. It's a 5.2 litre twin turbocharged engine. So it's producing 600 brake horsepower. From a torque point of view, 700 Newton meters, but it's producing peak torque as low down as 1500 RPM. So the result of that is fantastic performance. 200 mile an hour top speed, and 0 to 60 mile an hour in below 4 seconds. But really the story is about the delivery of that torque. It's available right the way through the rev range. So the car has dramatic performance, but really it's about the way that performance is delivered. So quite compelling statistics. But overall, it's a GT car. It is effortless performance.
So one of the cool things about this Aston Martin is right here. You can't really see it, but it's a gill, an air intake. And basically, air gets funneled through here and out the back, creating an active aero downforce in the back of the car. There is a little spoiler that pops out when you get going fast enough, but not only is this floating C-pillar, this floating roof, really cool design feature, it also is functional with this air intake.
It's an 8-speed ZF automatic transmission. Again, an example of some of the great technology partnerships we have at Aston Martin. So we previewed the 8-speed transmission in our current Vanquish and Rapide back in 2014. This is the next generation. So it's stop-start capable. And the engine also has another little trick up its sleeve. Although it's a V12, sometimes I like to think of it more of a 6+6. Because we can run that engine on just one bank of cylinders. So effectively it's a 2.6 litre straight 6 engine, perfectly balanced, So unless you need more than about 250 Newton meters of torque, you can just run it as a straight 6. But then when you go onto the throttle, the second bank comes in, and away you go.
Now, I recently had a chance to drive the Bentayga, the Bentley, and I was talking with the chief engineer, and he said they do the same thing. They can run it on the cylinders, but they alternate the cylinders so that you don't, use up one bank. Do you do the same thing?
We do. We bank switch. So we'll turn a bank off, run on the other bank of cylinders, but when we turn the one bank off, it starts to cool down. And that's a problem too, is if we turn it back on again and the catalysts have cooled down below their operating efficiency. So we have to switch banks. Around about every 30 seconds, you move from bank A to bank B. You can't feel that in the car. The beauty of a 12 being perfectly balanced, when you bank switch, you can't feel it.
This Aston Martin DB5 is a classic GT car. And what I mean by that is, while it is sporty, it is much better at tackling lots of miles, or in this case, kilometers, and getting, James Bond from places like London to Paris in style and comfort. And I fear that this one does not have the toys that made the movie car so famous. And I fear that this one doesn't have all the toys that made the movie car so famous. And what I'm talking about, of course, is the plate that turns and changes, the little blocking bullet, pop-up metal barrier, and of course, most famously of all, in the front here, if I recall right, because I had the toy as a little kid, machine guns that would spout out the front of the car. But nevertheless, it is still a really cool car with a classic shape and a timeless connection with 007. Now, was there any thought given with that much power to power all four wheels? Because it's a lot of horsepower going to the rear wheels.
Yeah, the beauty of an Aston Martin is it's in balance. It's balance of aerodynamics and it's balance of mass. So we've got a V12 engine at the front of the car, but our mass distribution is 51% at the front, 49% of the rear. So we've got all the traction that we need. Having the transmission, the transaxle at the back of the car gives us that balance. So we don't need all-wheel drive to give us the traction that we need. And of course, with all-wheel drive comes a mass penalty with the mechanics and the ratios that you've got in there. So we'd rather stick with two-wheel drive. We think that's very appropriate for our sports cars, and the weight distribution gives us the traction.
Now, a lot of people have pointed to kind of the floating roof, right? And that's a design feature that's becoming not commonplace, but it's kind of in style right now. Was there thought given to doing that because it's stylish, or did it just fit with the design of the car?
Marek and his team, for sure there's a design theme into that. I think it's beautiful. There's a technology story. It's a single piece of extruded aluminium that we stretch bend, but available of the finishes of black or body color or in the bright anodized. And I think what this is an example of is giving the customer the chance to bespoke their car. The graphic of the car when it's bright anodized is very different to the car with a black cant rail and a black roof. So really the customer has their choice. They can create their car, and that's a big strength of our brand, both on the outside of the car and on the interiors with the beautiful leathers and themes that we've got going there.
Now, by the reception of this car, it seems like people love it. So how many do you plan to build? Is there a number that...
We don't have a set number for this. We've said that we'll build around about 7,000 sports cars a year. That's our ambition going forward. We won't give a figure about exactly what proportion DB11 will make up on that, but that's where we'd like to get back to as a company. And DB11 really is the start of the renewal of the sports car range.
And of course, the most important question to buyers is how much and when can they buy?
Well, in the UK price, it's £154,900. It's on sale now globally, so if you want to put your deposit down at your Aston Martin dealer, absolutely you can do that. And we'll start to ship cars in the last quarter of this year.
And will it come to America?
It will absolutely come to America. America is one of our strongest markets. We're really excited about bringing the DB11 there. We've got a fantastic dealer network, and we'll get some cars across the Atlantic, and hopefully you guys will really enjoy driving them.
All right, now here's in America it's called the softball question, the easy one.
Okay.
What's your favorite? I take it you've driven the car.
I have driven the car. I'm a lucky guy.
And what's your favorite part of it?
Oh gosh, now that really is a difficult question. This car is all new. Just the sound of that V12 engine.
I've heard it's wonderful.
Just the sound. You put it in the Sport Plus mode in the powertrain, it sounds awesome, and you can have a lot of fun with the car. So if you maybe pick one thing, just the sound.
So when somebody buys it, the first thing they have to do is head to a tunnel, right?
Oh yeah. Get that. Wind the window down, find yourself a tunnel or a canyon, and just enjoy.
Last question. obviously you guys are a niche manufacturer. You build, and it's difficult to compete with, especially technology. So
Yep.
a lot of the new cars have blind spot monitoring, cross traffic alert. Is this something that you're also putting in the new car? Is there a suite of technologies like that?
Well, there's a strong technology story in the car. We've got our relationship with Daimler now, so the electrical architecture in this car is part of that partnership. So in terms of infotainment, satellite navigation, radio, satellite radio, for example, in the US, we partner with those guys and we get the latest technology. And then the car is riddled with technology from our supply base, whether it be Bilstein on adaptive damping systems, electric power steering for the first time from our supplier Bosch. So, we have access to many, many partners around the globe to bring new technology, and we'll continue to develop that into the future.
I hope. Oh, sorry. Like I said, there's a lot of people here who are interested in the car. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fastlane Car. Check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and of course, Aston Martin DB11's previews. See you guys next time. Ciao. How have you departed from the Veyron? How have you made the front end different?
Well, also the front end is an example of form-following performance. If you look at the headlamps, for example, they contain a very active air intake that leads directly down to the brakes and brake cooling of the car. And the front brakes on a supercar, that's one of the most important elements in terms of endurance qualities. No?